Iowa and Northwestern. We have an Iowa team here that's looking a little dangerous, looking a little bubbly here at the end of the year. And I said a few episodes ago that this is one of the wins they had to have at Northwestern. Now, it did help that Northwestern's missing a few key guys here. Boo Buie did his absolute best to try and will his team to victory, played 39 minutes, 27 points. So a huge offensive performance for him. However, it was not enough. Iowa proved to be the more offensively inclined team with the 87 to 80 points. But at the end of the day, Iowa making a bit of a bid here for the NCAA tournament. Northwestern falling off a little bit. I won't say they have fallen off at all, but the net ratings and things like that are not in their favor, so they can use every win that they can get. Russ, what were your thoughts on this one?
Yeah, so I said that 80% of home teams have won going into this weekend, but home teams were only 4-3 this weekend, right? Iowa got it done on the road, and like you said, they're a team that looks like they should be in the tournament, but do they have the resume and the schedule that will let them get in the tournament, that will get the committee to put them in? But I would make a suggestion. We're going through realignment, we're going through NCAA possibly being done. You guys watch European soccer much? So I would want to see. So they do this format. You know what the Champions League is? Have you heard the Champions League?
I know about regulate. How do you pronounce it?
Relegation.
Yeah.
So that's not where I'm going. I'm not going relegation route, but I'm going. They have what's called the Champions League, which is if you picture each conference in the Big Ten, each conference of college basketball being its own country, and then the NCAA tournament being like the Champions League. That's kind of how it works over there, right? They have the Italian league, the European, the English league, the French league. And they take like the top teams from each league and they put them in a Champions League and they crown a European champion. So what I think they should do in college basketball is maybe do away with college basketball or conference tournaments and sit there and say, you know what we're going to do? We're going to say, the Big Ten is one of the top conferences. We're going to give them the top 5 teams in their standings or the top 4 teams in their standings. They make the tournament. The SEC, the top 4, the top 5 teams in the standings make the tournament. And do that with every conference. The bottom conferences, they get the top 1 team. But then take like the next 4 teams in the standings, put them in a tournament against like the 4 teams in the SEC, and then say the team that wins that tournament or the top 2 teams in that tournament, they make the NCAA tournament. Because I feel like, the Big Ten they're so good at beating each other up. And there's so many teams that you get to the end of the year and they're like, well, they're 11-9 in the Big Ten or they're 12-8 in the Big Ten. But, they're right on the bubble, or do they really deserve to get in? Like an Ohio State or an Iowa, teams that make these late runs that people already have set in their mind, the Big Ten only is going to make 5 teams in the tournament or 6 teams. But, I think that the Big Ten has shown through the years that they have a good enough product that they deserve to have a certain set number of teams, it seems like, each year. So I think that'd be a cool thing to do because Iowa does, they did look like a team. And coming in this year, they had 2 guards in the top 10 guards list in the conference, 2 bigs in the top 10 bigs in the conference. Like, they're a very talented team that deserves to play postseason basketball. They just have not had the wins to maybe get themselves there.
Yeah, I mean, Tony Perkins and Peyton Sandford are fantastic, and they are 2 of the best players, not just on their team, but in the conference, realistically. I don't think they get the love. Now, I'm not saying they're like top 5 or anything like that, but when you take like the best players from each team, those are 2 of them for Iowa, and they can be talked up there with just about any player up at the top of the conference. So I'm not saying they are the best. Don't get my comments confused, but I am saying those are better players than people give them credit for. And I like your idea, Russ, and I think that it should happen. The only problem is they're never going to entertain it until the Big Ten starts winning games in the NCAA tournament, which is stupid and it sucks. I hate it. However, it is what it is, and I don't I don't see it changing anytime soon. I do think that the Big Ten is kind of better than they showcased this year in some ways. Like, Wisconsin has fallen off, but they did have that win over Marquette. They did beat Virginia in the offseason or in the out of conference. So I do think they are better, or some of those teams are better than maybe they get credit for. However, it's hard to say. But Kent, what were your thoughts on the games, or what Russ said? Do you have any thoughts there?
So many thoughts. I got to go back to something you said, actually. You said Tony Perkins doesn't get enough love. Have you met me before, bro?
Well, he does from you, but not other people.
Yeah.
When he called out athletic Iowa players, you didn't even bring up Perkins. You brought up Sandford. I was shocked. I was like, I thought Kent was a Perkins fan.
Yeah, that's because that was a joke. And he's not athletic. Tony Perkins is athletic. And he is still and always will be for this year I always pick one guy for the year. Tony Perkins, favorite player of the year this year. No, but this game, I just thought I wrote a ton of notes. I'll just skim through a couple of them though. I thought it was weird how identical some of their stats were from like the shooting perspective. They were absolutely identical from three, both 10, 4, 20. And then if you wanted to look for a stat that was the reason that Iowa won, I was pretty shocked that it was because of rebounding. They actually beat them by 7, 29-22 in rebounding. So I know Collins was heated after this game when he saw that was one of the reasons that they lost this was because they got out rebounded. He's going to be upset. And I'm actually pretty shocked that they won that rebounding battle. But Iowa, fun to think about right now. I know we're going to talk about them, or maybe we're not. Maybe we're going to skip over that part. But them making the tournament, they are they're just not there yet for me. I don't think they're going to actually make it unless they make like a big run in the Big Ten tournament, which I just don't foresee that happening. Even though they are hot right now, they've just been so touch and go this year that I just don't think they can put it together for the whole the duration of the weekend.
So you agree with the numbers that Northwestern's not going to make the Big Ten tournament, or it's not going to make the NCAA tournament?
Northwestern or Iowa?
Oh, I wrote down Northwestern. You're talking about Iowa.
I was talking about Iowa not making it.
Oh.
Northwestern, on the other hand, I do think should make it.
Okay, yeah,
I do.
Yeah,
I
think Iowa.
I guess I was lost.
No, Iowa. I mean, they did what they had to do, beating Northwestern at Northwestern. I do think that it's unfortunate for Iowa because Northwestern doesn't have. Again, I'll harp on it every single time. Northwestern doesn't have the numbers that they should have because Michigan State is like the third best net in the conference, and Northwestern is like 6th or 7th, which is just so stupid. Net is broken. I mean, nobody looks at Northwestern and says that's a worse team than Michigan State. I don't know
exactly
how you do.
what I wrote down. Like I wrote down way too many notes, but just to skim through some of that net stuff because I know the net is what a lot of people are talking about. Northwestern's 53 right now. Yeah. Michigan State is 22, I believe, in the net.
Yeah.
And they are 8-12 against quad 1 and 2. Michigan State is. Northwestern, 10-8. So that just doesn't make any sense to me that they're ranked almost 30 spots below Michigan State in the net, and they have that much better of a record. I think you guys can correct me if I'm wrong about this. I think it's because of the Chicago State loss still that's just dragging them down, which is, I get it. It's a bad loss, but it's also a team that beat Purdue this year. So like, to me, they cancel out, but I know to other people they don't because it's a historic loss to lose to Chicago State. But man, for a 1-point loss against a really bad team, I get it. Everybody has an off night now and again. I guess you just can't do it against that bad of a team, I guess. I don't know. That's just crazy that it drags them down that much.
Well, that drags them down, and then it's also the out-of-conference schedule. Like, there are teams that they wanted to hit on, didn't hit. Dayton is not, they're obviously a good team, 22-6, but they're still third in the A-10 right now. So that's not, the first place team, no doubt, in the A-10, like you would think, which I do think they're probably, one of the best in the Big Ten or in the A-10. And then Arizona State is they're not having the season they need to have. They're 14-15. So like neither of those teams are hitting, and they lost to Mississippi State, who was their other big out of conference team. And like when you tell me that Dayton, Mississippi State, and Arizona State are your three big teams to play out of conference, and you go 2-1 in those, like that's the hard part with the conference, with the scheduling and stuff like that, is like you have to schedule harder teams than that. They're kind of getting bit like, who was it last year that missed the tournament? Rutgers, because they didn't have enough hard teams in the schedule last year in the out of conference. So I don't know. It's crazy. We'll see. I hate that because at the end of the day, like I think you can tell from Northwestern playing in the Big Ten, they're better than that, but
Do you think that the next game for Northwestern at Michigan State, do you think whoever wins that game, everyone's going to be like, that team's in and the other team's out? Is that what's going to happen in that game?
I don't know. That's a good point. What do you think, Russ?
I was going to comment on this as well, that you guys talked about making runs in the tournament and these late wins in the season. I don't think they really impact the committee at all. as much as we talk about this team's got to win 2 or 3 games in the tournament, I don't know that there's many cases you can point to and say this team made the tournament because they made a run and won 3 games in the Big Ten tournament. So I think at this point, if Northwestern's going to make it, they're in. If they aren't, then there's nothing they can do to get themselves in besides win the Big Ten tournament. I think they could be that team that you look at and you go, most people think they're going to be a 7 seed or an 8 seed or a 9 seed, and then they all of a sudden miss the tournament completely. Like they 100% can, and then people are going to point to, as you're talking about, JR, the metrics and say, well, they're outside the top 50 in net, and teams outside the top 50 don't make the tournament.
I mean, even if they win one of their next 2 games, right? Michigan State and Minnesota, like we're talking about a 12-win conference or a 12 conference win team in the Big Ten not making the NCAA tournament. Like,
we've seen that before. There was a year Nebraska finished, I think, 4th in the conference at 12-8, and they missed the tournament.
Do you remember what year that was?
Give me a second. Go to the next topic.
That would be correct to me if they win. Like maybe this is my extra casualness coming out, but anytime someone gets to 20 wins, I'm like, they're in, done. They got to 20 wins. I don't care who they played. They won 20 games. They should be in the tournament. Now, obviously, that doesn't always happen, but there's also been cases where it's been the other way, where like someone gets like 18 or 19 wins, and it's like they do get in, and it's like I just don't understand how that's the case. Like I understand the part about like you got to play tougher teams and you got to beat tougher teams, but at the end of the day, you do also have to just win the games. And right. Northwestern has done that. They have won 20 games, and more than likely they'll have 21 or 22 wins before the Big Ten tournament. If they get to 22 wins and they don't get in, I'm rioting. Like they have to get in at that point, right?
22 wins at the end of the regular season, or
like if they win their last 2 games here.
I mean, yeah, it's just a product of the Big Ten is not respected this year, and we can say the Big Ten is weak, and I get that. I'm not against that. Like there are aspects of the Big Ten not being as good this year as it previously has been, but at the same time, like it's still like let's remember this is still the richest conference in all of college athletics. This is still where some of the highest paid coaches are in college basketball. Like even if Northwestern did not play a super hard out of conference schedule, like they're still taking basketball very seriously. I don't know. I guess that's not a good argument, but still, I'm with you, Kent. Like if you win 22 games and you're in the Big Ten, or what would that be? 13 games in the conference. Like that would just be absolutely unheard of if you don't make the tournament.
Yeah, if they didn't make it at that point, that would be crazy.
I mean, if they win,
I think they're in right now. Just for the record, for all the listeners out there, I think that they're already in, and I think they should be already in. I saw a graphic today making its rounds that they were on the bubble, and I got upset.
Yeah,
I got sad.
Yeah. Rush, you got the year there?
So it was 2013, 2014. And they finished 11-7 because it was an 18 game conference schedule. Okay. And I'm sorry, they did make the tournament as an 11 seed. So I think it was the lowest of 4th team the Big Ten has ever been seeded in the NCAA tournament, I believe. So, but they were on the cusp of missing the tournament. So I missed it.
Yeah. And Philip makes a good point here. He says the Big Ten doesn't have the dead fish to play anymore, other than Michigan, to build up wins for the rest of the conference. Oh, except Michigan. He said it there. But yeah, I mean, that's a good point. Like Penn State, they have a losing record on the year, but what's their Big Ten record is 8-11. Like when you're 14-16 on the year, over half of your wins are in the conference. Like, it's kind of a weird year when you got stuff like that going down. So thanks for listening to the Big Ten Huddle. Please do like and subscribe. We appreciate that. If this was your first time listening, we are the Big Ten Huddle. We cover all things Big Ten football and basketball. We have a long episode every Sunday, Tuesday, and Wednesday night, all at 9 o'clock. So come in, check us out, get in the chat, let us know what you're thinking. We would love to have you join us and learn more about the Big Ten.